Welcome to Wednesday, the 21st day of January, 2026. When you or a loved one has suffered serious harm, look to Wyoming's board-certified truck accident lawyer, Grant Lawson, leading the charge for accountability and fighting for safer roads. Don't settle for anything less. Visit truckaccidents.com. Well, folks, we've got a historic storm brewing for a good part of the U.S., and the western edge of the storm is going to sideswipe parts of the Intermountain West and certainly the plains with the coldest air of the season to date and a little bit of snow. But by far, the big news story is going to be off into the eastern side of the U.S., but a huge chunk of the central as well, as we're just going to unleash multiple Arctic waves. And this is going to be the case really going into tomorrow through the weekend, and then there are more Arctic waves coming next week. Now, the latest trends have been for the Arctic air to maybe get a little more westward, so it's creeping a little bit more westward, the Arctic air is. So do be prepared, for some of you, the coldest temperatures of the season, and for some of you, the first chance of going below zero. There will be light snows in the far west, but Arctic air doesn't have much water in it, so you're not going to produce much snow, but we're going to have some. We're going to see snow, cold, and ice. It's just going to be a rather remarkable set of events, really starting late Friday through the weekend and into early next week. And we've highlighted those areas, and we're going to highlight those areas for you again. Do you remember the QBO, the quasi-biennial oscillation? Well, that is something that is really impacting how the winter's going. It's something we brought up a while ago. I'm going to bring it up again, and it's going to look familiar to a lot of you. And there are more Arctic surges mid to late next week possible. And so, yes, we're releasing the Kraken, and it's going to really feel like a monster is hitting. You know, natural gas prices have gone up just short of $2 this week in response to the anticipation of the cold air that's coming across the region. The aurora borealis, here's some photos coming in from the night before. We actually did see a reemergence for a while last night of the aurora in some areas. Beautiful shots coming in there from Jen Curtis, from Walden, Colorado, from Riverton, up into the Sheridan area, Bondurant. And then this is from last night. So the aurora coming out, beautiful shot there, the stars and the aurora showing itself and all the way down into far south central areas of Colorado. We did see a little push of Arctic air across portions of Montana, central and northern Wyoming yesterday, producing a few flurries and some clouds, but nothing to write home about. Now, if you take a look at these photos, just spectacular clouds again, and sunrises and sunsets across the region. A little bit of snow still on the ground down there in the Fountain, Colorado area, and they're still waiting for some snow in northwest Colorado and the Uinta Basin. So I want to go back to the quasi-biennial oscillation. This is something I think we showed you back maybe in November, early December. This is a stratospheric pattern that happens every 24 to 30 months. That's why it's called quasi-biennial. To make a long story short, the stratospheric winds high in the atmosphere go west to east in a positive QBO phase. They go east to west in an easterly or negative QBO phase. We were in this for a couple of years. We have now transitioned to this, and it transitioned in early December. Now, I'm not going to go deep into the weeds here on why the reversal of the wind direction can make a big difference and how the jet stream and the polar vortex is affected. There's a lot of moving parts to this, but what we do know is that there are strong signals when we look at this phase of the QBO that certain things happen. Same here. And the thing that really happens that shows up in the climatological records is that when we go into this phase where we are now, the jet stream gets more wavy and can sometimes lock into place. And this is exactly really is part of it in terms of what has happened this winter, is patterns have locked in for weeks on end, and you tend to get persistent patterns. You get a spot where it just won't snow. You get a spot where it won't stop snowing. And that's kind of where we've been across the globe this winter so far. Thing to remember about weather and climate, it's never one thing. It's never, oh, it's just the QBO or it's just La Nina. It's always a combination of things, multiple variables, and how they interact with each other. That's why it makes it so difficult to forecast, especially when you go out past 5 days or so. So this is a slide I showed you about how the QBO could affect the winter. So we are in the eastern QBO phase, or the negative thing. And so you increase these risks of stratospheric warming events. There's one going on right now, and disrupted Arctic air containment. So these are the trends right here. So if we go through the trends historically, we are checking a lot of boxes in terms of where you are having the higher likelihood of cold outbreaks in the winter. All of these things right here are happening. Now, it says enhanced snowfall and regional cold in the northern Rockies. That really hasn't happened, although I could argue the above normal snowpack or the really good snowpack that happened in December and early January in parts of Montana and Wyoming and Idaho could be part of that. But where we don't see any verbiage here is a drought and warmer than drier conditions across the Intermountain West. So that is not part of what we've seen historically. But there's a lot there that has happened when we have a negative QBO. Also, see the highlighted red? It favors blocking patterns. So it's part of the equation, but it's not all of it. When we take a look at the satellite imagery, I'm going to show you a couple of different satellite photos. The high pressure ridge is going up here and getting squeezed a bit and starting to rotate back a little bit. This upper low out of California doesn't look like much, but it's going to be a big player. You can see the blue here, some Arctic air causing low stratus clouds. Arctic air streaking down here right now, but we still have this big ridge of high pressure still bringing that fair dry weather. Look at the Pacific. Look at this big storm out in the Pacific northwest of Hawaii. That's one reason why we have this big high right here, is we've had this big storm. Some of you may have seen social media posts about the huge snows in far northeastern areas of Russia. Well, this is part of the equation right there. So we've got a lot going on, but we've got a lot of amplification of the jet stream in the Pacific and across North America. Look at the advisories for winter weather being posted. See this? This entire area is under a winter storm watch. That is a lot of real estate, folks. Same up here for severe cold and snow. Now, these watches here really don't start till Friday, but they've already issued them. That's why the confidence is so high about what's going to happen in the deep south. So let's step through what we've been showing you. You can see the polar vortex, where it's going to be today. The cold air is really going to start to penetrate up here today. And then as we go through time, subtle changes, but subtle sometimes is enough. So this is today. Tomorrow you can see we're getting an Arctic tail forming right here as the polar vortex shifts south a little bit. We also have a very subtle westward shift in the high in the Pacific. See that right there? That allows that Arctic air to push further west. By Friday morning, that California low merges with the flow. You see that right there? So this moisture starts to get entrained into the system. Arctic air pushes to the west-southwest, and like this, and the Arctic air is going to have nothing to really impede it. So it's just going to creep south like maple syrup or molasses as we go into Friday and into the upcoming weekend. That's Saturday. And as we look at Saturday, you can see that there's not a lot of change from Friday, but the cold air gets deeper, especially in southern Canada, Montana, the Dakotas, northeastern Wyoming, and the Great Lakes. We have this high right here off the coast of Florida by Cuba that is going to keep Florida protected from this, but it's also going to help. The circulation is going to draw that moisture up to the north. That's why we've got a historic situation developing over a large part of the country as we get into the weekend and early next week. So if we follow the cold, these are the temperature anomalies by tomorrow midday, Friday midday. Look at temperatures by Friday morning. These are overnight lows for Friday night. Look at that wedge of minus 30s in Canada, poking in the far northeast Montana, the Dakotas, and the upper Midwest. Single digits getting pushed back to the continental divide. These are the temperature anomalies Saturday. Look at these overnight low temperatures Friday night into Saturday morning. So you can see Yeah, that's a minus 20 in Casper. Is that possible? It certainly is. It looks like a good chunk of Wyoming and Montana and Nebraska, northeast Colorado, will see some sub-zero temperatures, and that's not even including the wind chill. I'll tell you this, the wind chills up here are going to be extreme, and livestock interests out into the plain states, you got to be ready for 30, 40, 50 degree below zero wind chill values, as these Arctic shots, kind of like what we experienced late last Friday, will bring a good chunk of wind as that Arctic air pushes through. This is the real McCoy. So folks up here, livestock interests, you really need to be prepared for the coldest temperatures of the season and the wind chills. This is by Sunday. Looking very cold for playoff football in Denver. And we're looking at the cold. Florida is getting protected by that high down here. Florida is the place to escape to, I guess, because the rest of the country is really just going to be in the onslaught. These are the overnight low temperatures by Sunday morning. Sub-zero temperatures getting all the way into northern New Mexico, the panhandle of Texas. Look at temperatures around Dallas and into central areas of Texas, dropping down to the upper single digits and the lower teens. Yeah, that is a minus 40 up there in Saskatchewan. So here we go with the cold, and then it spreads out to the east during the day Monday. This is going to be a multiple day severe cold outbreak in the deep south and the central United States. That's why natural gas prices are going through the roof right now. And you can see a wide swath of heavy precipitation in the south. Notice we have lighter snows along the east slopes of the Canadian and the northern Rockies out into the plain states. Again, you're just not going to get a lot of snow here, but there's enough water that heavy dustings of snow to an inch or two will occur in some areas. Although we may, in some of the deeper Arctic air, get a little band of snow right there that may be a little bit heavier. We still continue to see that California moisture will bring finally some snow to southwest Colorado and south central Colorado's mountains. Look at the mountains of Mexico here. It's incredible. Yeah, they're going to get snow. Look at this wide swath of snow. Now, the thing to remember here is the real estate, the number of square miles covered with a significant snow event. Look at Interstate 70 in Kansas. Look at Oklahoma. Watch out Tulsa, all the way down into Dallas. And we're going to see this go into the northeastern United States and the Great Lakes. Now, this is just through Monday. So this is going to be a significant snow event to cause major travel and airport concerns. And as we showed you yesterday, and we're going to show you here in a minute, the extent of that ice storm is going to be significant. So further out west, getting a little bit more detail, you can see that the water equivalents are very, very low here. But when you have this Arctic air, it doesn't take much water to make the snow stack up a bit. So there's going to be some light snows. I showed you this little band here along the Pine Ridge, up along the east slopes of the Bighorns, up along I-90. There may be a little bit of an enhancement from the snow. That's because the Arctic air will be deeper there and there will be a little bit of an overrunning. We're seeing this heavier snow in the latest modeling trends going a little bit further north into Kansas and far southern areas of Nebraska. Light snows, fluffy light snows along the Front Range. This is the ice I was talking about. You see these darker red, still predicting anywhere between 1 to over 2 inches of ice accumulation. To give you the magnitude of this potential ice storm, if this develops, when you think of power lines going down and tree branches coming down, taking out power lines, this is akin to the type of power line damage over a very large area that you would see with a major hurricane hitting the Gulf Coast and coming inland. So hopefully the power companies, all the linemen, the utilities are bringing people in from other areas of the country and descending on this part of the country right here to be ready for the weekend and into early next week. It's not a matter is this going to happen? It's going to. It's just going to be a matter of how big the impacts are going to be. This is the 5-day cumulative temperature anomaly from the middle of this week to Monday. So you can see the heart of the coldest anomalies are going to be up here, but you can also see the anomalies are getting into the deep south. Now, there's going to be protection west of the Continental Divide from the worst of the Arctic air. We see that quite frequently, but it is pushing ever so slowly a little bit more to the west. So parts of the Front Range of the Rockies will get some of this Arctic air. And then we're going to have big lake effect snows. This is just going to be one big giant mess. Hopefully you don't have any travel plans over that part of the nation, really starting Friday and going through next Friday. Why do I say that? We are queued up to see another Arctic wave punch in on Wednesday. You see this vortex right here? This is going to consolidate in the northeast United States late next week. Crazy. Just really going to be an extended period of severe cold for the central and eastern parts of the United States. Look at this next push. This is the next Arctic wave, comes in along the east slopes of the Rockies on Wednesday again. It's going to focus itself into the upper Midwest, but it will push across the south. Look at the northeastern United States, and some of that cold does come back into Florida. So this is the real McCoy. This is going to be maybe 2021 type cold that's going to descend into the deep south in the central United States. Our regional travel forecast is going to be more and more important here in the days ahead. Don't forget, we produce it on our YouTube channel 3 o'clock each afternoon, Monday through Fridays. Have yourself a good Wednesday. We'll see you tomorrow.